The mystical truths in religions East and West are brought to light again and made relevant for our time by Elizabeth Clare Prophet, world-renowned author and spiritual teacher.
What is the specific meaning of colors in the aura?
Color, Doug, is a manifestation of frequency, and frequency is a manifestation of consciousness, or one's state of consciousness. Therefore, in reading the aura, when one sees color, one can determine what is the state of consciousness if one understands the colors which correlate to states of consciousness. For instance, Kuthumi says, as the intensity of the white and the violet light is increased in the aura, especially those shades which are pale and ethereal, one notes the enlarging of man's perceptions and an increase in spirituality. Just as color reflects consciousness, so color amplifies consciousness. And therefore, if through our mantras and our prayers to God, we increase the light of purity and of the violet flame, we will also accelerate our consciousness on those rays of God. We have discussed the 7 rays of God as the prism of the Holy Spirit, and as the 7 lines or 7 ways of Christhood which we can walk. And we have also correlated these 7 rays with the 7 chakras or the centers in the temple of being. Speaking then of the violet light and the white light, we are speaking of 2 of the sacred centers of God in man, and these centers are for the amplification of that frequency of consciousness which manifests as the white light and the violet light. The base of the spine chakra of the mother center, is the one which gives forth the pure white light when its energies are held in the purity of Alpha and Omega being symbolical of the divine polarity, masculine and feminine energies which are held concentrated in each chakra. The violet flame corresponds to the seat of the soul chakra. It is the color of freedom and the quality of mercy. It is the energy of transmutation. The violet light in the aura denotes that the soul is free to commune with God, and therefore there is always reflected in the aura whether man is maintaining the crystal clear stream of God's consciousness released through the 7 chakras, or whether he is misqualifying those energies and thereby producing a muddied stream. Although not everyone is capable of reading the aura directly, at subconscious levels within the soul and at the level of the Christ mind, we all have perceptions of one another, and we register these perceptions. And there are certain characteristics which we read in one another even at subconscious levels or superconscious levels, which tell us much about the individual before we even know that person. We are usually aware when we are in the presence of someone who is holy, and often we have a warning when we are in the presence of someone who is dangerous. This is an indication that although we may not have mastered the science and the art of reading the aura, that the God within us is aware of the God within others and the uses or misuses of that consciousness by individuals. One can see then that if there is a pale yellow, almost golden light in the aura of an individual, especially around the head, that there is flooding through the mind, as Kuthumi says, the very fingers of cosmic intelligence, manifest as interconnecting light rays. This energy present within the aura then enables the mind of man to contact the universal mind of God. Now this can come about through meditation upon the Buddha or the Christ, both of whom have given us the key to unlock the crown chakra, which is the yellow center. Then there is the pink fire of divine love that comes forth through the heart, and when it is not qualified by the human sense of possessiveness, attachment, or inordinate desire in love, produces within the aura a billowing cloud of pink energy, denoting that the individual is infused and filled with an awareness of God as love. The purple fire comes forth from the solar plexus chakra, and it is flecked with a gold flame like 24-karat gold. This tinging of the purple flame with the gold denotes the action of the mastery of the light of peace within the solar plexus, and is an indication that the individual whose aura is so infused is active in service to life. Hence, those who are engaged in service to life and to one another will manifest this coloration of the aura. The energy of green comes from the all-seeing eye and indicates a manifestation of truth, abundance, science, and the ability to penetrate and conquer the planes of matter and spirit. Those who have green in the aura are devoted to science and to the practical application of that science. When the pursuit of science becomes muddied by a materialism and the ignorance of God's laws, as well as the omission of the flame of the Spirit in the very center of science, then the green of the aura no longer reflects the pure emerald hue of the stone by that name, but it becomes muddied, an olive drab, even a brownish green. By this we know that science is not carrying the purity and the flow of cosmic consciousness. Those who have the pure emerald green within the aura are healers, and through them and through their chakras flow the healing currents of the Elohim and of the cosmos. The electric blue color which flashes in the aura of Archangel Michael or the devotees of the will of God denotes the presence of purity and power and the alignment of the inner blueprint with the cosmic blueprint of the will of God. It also denotes the energy of the Mercurians and the mastery of the throat chakra in the spoken word. Thus, the reading of the aura will always tell us where there is mastery and attainment in the use of the chakras, and where there is a perversion or a willfulness in the misuse of that energy.
Does Kuthumi teach that the aura is an extension of the self?
Not only this, but he says that the tone of the divine aura is an extension of God, just as the mode of thinking and feeling is the extension of the human consciousness. He says that the interference with the aura in its natural pure state by the mortal consciousness and its misqualification of light create the negative colorations that are both seen and felt by the more sensitive among mankind. He says that the muddying of the pure colors of the aura occurs whenever there is a mingling of the emanations of imperfect thoughts and feelings with the pure colors released through the prism of the Christ. This marked change in color and vibration is obvious to the trained eye. For instance, you might have someone who is in a state of contemplation or study or meditation, and the aura might so indicate by the presence of a yellow light, a violet light, and even the presence of blue, the blue faith in God. And all of a sudden, there would be some type of an emergency, like a fire or a calamity within the household. Suddenly, there is the introduction of fear into the aura. And suddenly, the quietness of the aura is interrupted by a burst of fear, which might come forth out of the solar plexus. It would be accompanied by feelings within the individual of butterflies and extreme tension. And this stress would produce a muddying of the violet, explosions perhaps of great energies of fear, recorded as brown, as black, as gray, a lot of gray substance. And then, depending on what the calamity is, grief could come about, or people could begin shouting, and then you would find a darkening. You would find coming forth from the area of the throat chakra jagged lines of force. And thus, instantaneously, we find a complete change in the aura. What Kuthumi tells us is that the aura changes moment by moment. The mastery, then, of the flow of energy in the aura comes about by maintaining a calm state of equilibrium in the midst of whatever happens within the environment, all the while then maintaining one's contact with the source and having the capacity to draw enormous quantities of energy from that source for the stabilizing of conditions which might be upon others within the household. when one is conscious of one's energy field, and one zealously guards that energy field as the habitation of God, then one is able to retain one's reservoir of light and not constantly being like a cork bobbing upon the sea and being milked of one's light and one's energy, and therefore, as soon as the cup is filled, the spilling of that cup and never making any real permanent progress on the path of discipleship. With his usual good humor, Kuthumi writes, "Always remember, dear hearts, that those who fall in the swamp may come up covered with mud, for the quicksands of life by their very nature always seek to drag man down. But man can and does escape these conditions, overcoming through the same glorious victory that brings forth the lotus in the swamplands of life. I want you to understand, then, that by a simple act of invoking the light of the Christ consciousness, man can overcome the ugly chartreuse green of jealousy and resentment, the muddied yellow of selfish intellectualism, the crimson reds of passion, and even the almost violet black attempts of self-righteous justification." Then he gives us his supreme advice. To see others clearly, beloved hearts, remember that man must first perceive in himself the beautiful crystal of cosmic purity. Then, casting the beam out of his own eye, he can see clearly to take the mote out of his brother's eye. By the purification of your perceptions, you will be able to enjoy the entire process of beholding the Christ in self and others, as one by one the little disturbances of the aura are cleared up through the natural manifestation of the childlike beauty of cosmic innocence.
Thank you very much.
This is a presentation of the Summit Lighthouse, an international spiritual organization dedicated to universal enlightenment. Founded in 1958, the Summit Lighthouse is a beacon of truth to thousands worldwide and a leader in New Thought spirituality.